When you think about other senior members of the British monarchy, they do some sterling work. I know a lot of people say, oh, they have an easy life. But of course, when you are somebody like the Duchess of Edinburgh, of course, Sophie, who as I say, I was lucky enough to meet many, many years ago. She used to work at Capital FM, for those that may remember it, in London. And she was one of the publicity people. So she understands the value of how to promote something and really get it into the front pages. I think she does a splendid job. And as you could see, I don't know if you remember that, but she was, visibly moved, wasn't she, at the funeral of the Duke of Edinburgh. They really got on well and was very close, of course, to our wonderful late monarch, Queen Elizabeth. But it does appear, as ever, that Prince Harry sees the fact that the Duchess of Edinburgh is really doing a role that he could have stepped into, particularly over this recent visit to Ukraine. As ever, let me explain. Morning, lovely to see you today. Thank you so much for taking the time out to join me. By the way, for British fans and maybe fans across the world who did see this wonderful series, who remembers Terry and June? June Whitfield, Terry Scott, a brilliant sitcom, just one of those gentle sitcoms that ran for many years, right through the 80s into the early 90s. Guess what? There's now a trigger warning on that, apparently, because we could be offended about some of the language. The only thing we're offended about is that it's a comedy and it's still funny, and the things we see today are not funny. That's the offensive stuff. Have you noticed that? Yes. Interested with these things. I just love the trigger warnings, don't you? I think they should have trigger warnings in supermarkets when you go near the Lurpak. That's butter, by the way, for anybody around the world. You look at the price and you think, is there a chair? Need to sit down? No trigger warning there, is there? Have you noticed that? Back as ever to your royal story of the day. Yes, now I've been told that, of course, while the Duchess of Edinburgh is doing sterling work on behalf of His Majesty the King, particularly on a recent visit to Ukraine, which really did get all the right headlines about such a, a very difficult moment in history, is it not? It's very, very tricky. But of course, her compassion, her professionalism, and the fact that she comes across as a really nice, relatable, down-to-earth girl that she is, as I say, met her many years ago, lovely lady. And it's interesting to note that this apparently was one of the things that Prince Harry truly had his eye on. Of course, being ex-military himself, he feels that he could go out to Ukraine and do good. Now, when you think about it, if you look at Spare and the alleged things that he claimed he did, well, part of the army, with the 25 Taliban members, perhaps this could be incendiary, it might not work out for the very best. But of course, that particular visit by Sophie has proven to be such a success. I've been told that His Majesty the King is looking at other options where she can represent him on the bigger world stage. And I don't know about you, but she spent quite a few years in the background, being very good, very sort of assisting without the fanfare. This is her moment to shine, clearly. And more importantly, when you think about it, she's doing a terrific job. Obviously, Prince Harry's thinking, well, this could have been my role, but he chose another path, Megxit. And now what he's looking at is somebody taking on that role, doing an exceptional job, and wondering whether now he could return to it. Seemingly, there's no room at the inn, particularly where Sophie's doing the job that really many people felt, can she do it? And she's proven that she can. The Ukraine visit was an incredible success, so much so, as I say, that His Majesty the King is looking at other things where she could become his ambassador, his, of course, presence in that particular arena. I just wanted to highlight that because I think it's important that we look at other members of the British monarchy. Do you agree? Neil Sean in the very heart of Yorkshire.